Replacement in yesterday's match against Manly after he already played a full game in President's Cup. The league didn't hesitate in taking away the Rabbitohs' 2 winning points, but they still remain in 5th place on the ladder.
The weight of history was against South's coach George Piggins and Secretary Terry Parker when they arrived to face the board this morning. A similar case in 1975 cost Wests a semi-final spot. Last year, Saints reserves lost a point. Coach Piggins argued he'd made an honest mistake which had no effect on the outcome of the match, but it took less than an hour for the board to turn a winning result for Souths into 80 minutes of fruitless toil.
I find it very difficult, as I said, to come to terms with a situation where you can be fined if you lose a game, but if you win a game, you've got to suffer 2 competition point loss. There is an anomaly there, I believe, in the decision, and you know, we have to accept it, but you know, we're not happy with it.
Unhappy because a few weeks ago Manly were found guilty of a like crime and forfeited only cold hard cash instead of points. That's because they lost.
Would you rather have lost the game and copped a fine?
Mate, you can't have freedom of speech around here, so I'd cop a fine if I could get one. Fair dinkum.
The league board admits no injustice, only that its hand was more or less guided by history.
In this case, no, the game was won, and within the league rules and what has been said in the past, the league had no option.
Last week, the classy 17-year-old Scott Wilson played President's Cup and then sat on the bench for reserve grade. He didn't get a start, and they won. Yesterday, he was over the moon after making a break for a disallowed try. Minutes later, he was in the centre of a storm.
I just feel like I'm about, you know, 3 foot tall. Yeah, just a middleman, and I don't think it's got anything to do with me. I was just a player on the field. It's just a mistake. Well, I'm sure George wouldn't have known. Otherwise,
I don't know. Anyway, I'm dead serious now. Well, the news in rugby league today was all bad for South Sydney. They've been stripped of the 2 Winfield Cup points won yesterday at Brookvale Oval. Just like their coach, George Piggins, would be right now. I'm wondering if it may cost them dearly come the semi-final countdown.
Today's decision by the league has left the South's camp shattered. Their great on-field performance yesterday now means absolutely zero, following by South's own admissions their poor handling of the replacement rules. Scott Wilson's chance at first-grade experience was sincerely, although unfortunately granted by George Piggins. But in defence of the New South Wales League Board, all clubs were repeatedly advised of the rules in correspondence from the management, even as late as the past 7 days.
On the 17th of this month, they were aware again to remind themselves of the President Cup rules, and as late as last week, we again reminded all clubs of the replacement rule.
While such evidence gives Souths no comeback whatsoever, their complaint remains solely with the severity of the penalty.
I do state that, and again state that any fair-minded Australian sportsman would say, you know, how can a team who are leading, you know, 26-12 lose competition points for what is really a minor breach? I think that a precedent was set some 2 weeks ago when Manly copped a $6,000 fine for 2 breaches of the replacement rule, and I believe these to be of similar breaches, and I felt a fine would have been appropriate.
As far as anything being appropriate is concerned, Coach George Piggins certainly leaves you with no doubt.
I think this decision was a rough one. I think they were unjust by giving it to us. I think it was a total honest mistake, and for them to deal with us in the way they have, I think it's totally unjust.
Has it soured your feelings towards the game and the league?
Well, I love rugby league, and I always do. But you know, governments within a government, like these little bodies, fair dinkum, if it only had cost me $3,000, I'd really like to give them all their form.
For 17-year-old Scott Wilson, just getting on the field yesterday was a big enough shock. What happened afterwards was something he never ever dreamed about, even in his worst nightmares.
Even though it was only for 6 minutes, it was a great feeling to be out there, but this is just taking the icing off the cake. It's just ruined, like, the match itself.
Scott feels very sorry for coach George Piggins and the players who'd executed Piggins' winning game plan. Wilson says Piggins consoled him last night.
You know, he put me at ease about it. He said, you know, don't worry about it, and maybe feel a bit better about it, but I still feel I should take some of the blame for going on the field.
As for his teammates, well, they've tried to lighten the burden Wilson feels, even jokingly giving him the nickname of 2 points.
A nickname you'll love to have later on?
Oh, no, not really. I'd rather just, you know, let it slide away very fast. Not one I'd cherish.
They robbed the team of the competition points won against Manly yesterday. Souths won the match 28-14, but were stripped of the win for fielding an under-21 player, Scott Wilson, in the last 6 minutes of the match. The rules state that a player cannot be used in the under-21s and then back up for a higher grade on the same day.
Souths arrived at the New South Wales Rugby League determined to fight a battle in the boardroom that they'd already won on the field. Within an hour, yesterday's victory march was today's defeat.
Well, a mistake is made, in trying to give a 17-year-old boy, an opportunity of getting a taste of first grade with a view to the future. As I said, I don't believe we shot a Wally Lewis out there to try and win a game. The game was over. We've admitted to the breach of the rule, but I think we've paid dearly, and too dearly, I believe, for that breach.
It's easy to understand South's feelings. For 74 minutes, they hammered Manly. The 6 minutes Scott Wilson spent on the field had no bearing on the result. But, says John Quayle, rules are rules, even unpopular ones.
Where do we set the rule? Do we say that if it's 20-0, if it's 40-0, or if there's 5 minutes to go? We can't do that. We have to lay down the rules, and then the clubs are responsible to adhere to them.
A bitter George Piggins blames himself for the mix-up, and for the next few months he'll be agonising over just what it may mean.
We won't get the result at the end of the year where we just miss out in the minor premiership or where we just miss out in the final five. That'll be a few months away before we find out what's going to be the result from this.
And there's a precedent. In 1975, West lost a point for breaching a replacement rule with Mick Lebinskas. It cost the Magpies a semi-final berth. Standing in the middle of all of this is a 17-year-old bewildered boy, 1 minute over the moon at the first run-in with the big men, the next all too aware that once again on Anzac Day, wars are won as much in the boardroom as they are on the battlefield.
A lot of the officials at South are under the impression that only a fine would be put to South, but now the 2 points has come this morning. Well, I just feel about 3 foot